Today in Algebra 1, we are going to look at Lesson 2.2 and 2.3 together, adding and subtracting real numbers. There are two rules for adding and subtracting numbers. If the signs are the same, then the sign stays the same and you're going to add them. If the signs are opposite, then you're going to use the sign of the absolute value of the larger number and subtract. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, the larger number is always going to be positive, but your answer isn't going to always be positive. So you cover up the signs, you look at the number's absolute value, which is its distance from 0, and you use that sign. We'll take a look at that on the next pages of this lesson. But you're going to use the sign of the number that's absolute value is largest, and then you will subtract the numbers. Okay, we have two sets of examples here. Two problems for when the signs are the same, and two problems for when the signs are opposite. If the signs are the same, that means that you have two numbers whose signs are either both positive or they are both negative. In this first example, we have a 7 plus 2. If a number does not have a sign in front of it, it is understood to be positive. So this means a positive 7 plus 2. Let's think in terms of money. If you have $7, that's positive. And if you get two more, that's also positive. So you end up with $9, or 7 plus 2 is 9. Okay, negatives work exactly the same way. Negative 3 minus 5. The signs are the same, so the sign is going to stay the same, negative, and then you add those together. 3 plus 5 is 8. Again, if we think about that in terms of money, we can say, okay, if you're in the whole $3, if you owe $3 and you owe somebody else $5, then altogether you are in the hole, you are negative $8. If the signs are the same, then the sign stays the same and you add. Okay, now we're going to switch gears to if the signs are opposite. Okay, if the sign is opposite, if you'll cover up the signs on the two numbers and look at the larger number, okay, if we have negative 7, positive 2, we're looking at the absolute value of those numbers. Okay, 7 is the furthest from 0. The negative 7 is the furthest from 0. So we're going to use the sign that goes with that number, which is negative, and then you subtract. 7 minus 2 is 5. So negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Use the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value. Okay, now here's the second example. Negative 3 plus 5. Okay, which number is the furthest from 0? 5 is. Therefore, we're going to use the sign on the 5, which is a positive, and then we're going to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. So if the signs are the same, the sign stays the same, and you add. If the signs are opposite, then you use the sign of the largest, the larger absolute value, and you subtract. The last thing that we're going to look at on this lesson is what happens when you have a negative right next to a negative and there is no number separating them. Well, think about it. What happens when you remove something negative from your life? When you remove a negative or subtract a negative, that's a positive thing. Okay, so a negative right next to a negative, it becomes positive. And 18 plus 7 is a 25. 13 minus negative 5. You have a negative right next to a negative. You are removing a negative. That makes it positive. Negative right next to a negative becomes positive. 13 plus 5 is 18. Okay, you do that when there is no number in between the two negative signs. Okay, a negative right next to a negative is a positive. The other way to think of that is a negative times a negative is a positive.